Thank you, sir. Good evening, students. Good evening back. After a long break, we are meeting up. You've had like a lot of sessions in between on other sessions, but my session, able to see the students only now. Now visible the videos. Yes. Okay. So today we'll be discussing on the topic of returns. Till last session, we have completed the major aspects. Okay. Yes. Good evening, Tayasumi. Good evening, Sabrinathan. Good evening, Mr. Linga, Mr. Nagraj, Miss Prerna, Miss Pooja, Adil Khan, Navneet, and Nagraj. Good evening, everyone. Right? We will discuss on a topic of filing returns. How do we file the returns? And how to file is one aspect, and what is to be included in those returns is another bigger aspects. So this is a procedural topic. So we will see that a lot of procedure is involved. Yes, good evening, Ms. Shamli. So a lot of procedural aspects we'll see how it is there and how we will consider it. So the approach, what I want to do today is that this is a procedural aspect, so you may get kind of dried up. So to start the session, what we'll do is we'll straight away go to the MCQs. So once we go to the MCQs, I will not give you the answer, just the question. So based on the question, you know what will be our focus, and then we'll go with the topic so that then you can cross check your answers whether it is correct or not. Okay, so that will be the approach today. So straight away to MCQs. You can give your answers. I will not tell it is right or wrong. That I will tell you at the end of the session. Or I can tell you the answer, then you can kind of reconfirm. That is also a good option. Which one majority says we can do that. Now, many students may know the returns. Whom don't know, they can just try this so that you know. One, the details of outward supplies of goods shall be submitted by which date? Right? Few people think it is 20th. Few people feel it is 11th. Most of them are giving answer that it is 11th, and few are saying it is 20th. So there are two types of returns which one will have to file. One is a return which gives the details of outward supplies. So it only gives those details of outward supplies. Another return is one which gives the details of outward supplies and inward supplies. So that is called as a GST return. Here the question being asked is, what is the due date for giving the details of only outward supplies? Okay, so that you have to be careful, because generally we feel, okay, 20th is the return under GST. Even if you have not read GST, we'll feel that. But you have to be careful whether it is the return or the details of outward supply. That is first. Second, what all details we will give in the outward supplies. What are details of outward supplies? When we file this return of outward supplies of goods or services, what are the details we will include in it? Right. We will include details of invoice, we'll include details of credit notes and debit notes, we will include revised invoice which is issued, or one of them. Right. So everybody is giving an answer majority or 99.999% or say 100% itself. It's everybody is saying that we have to give all the information. Okay. Next, whatever details we are furnishing in the outward supply. So here we get to know that outward supply is furnished through form GSTR1. Now, once you submit this details in form GSTR1, then how it will be, shall be furnished to the recipient's regular dealer in which form. The recipient will see in which form, right? Good that people are saying the correct answers here. So we can kind of confirm that yes, you all know this topic very well. So yes, the answer for the third MCQ is GSTR-2A. And fourth one, yes. So once I file my GSTR1, it will appear in the recipient as GSTR-2A. And it can also appear in his GSTR-2B. So there are two types of inward supplies which he can see. That is, one is GSTR-2A and another one is GSTR-2B. Fourth one, every registered person shall be entitled to take credit of input tax credit in his return, and such input tax credit shall be credited to, yes, it shall be credited in his electronic credit ledger. Correct. So that is clear. So then let's answer the first and second also, so that since we are answering other questions also, let us answer this. Yes, most of you have given the answer as 11th and few have given as 20th. So 20th is the due date for filing GSTR-3B. Okay, that is the monthly return what we file and pay the taxes through this. The details of outward supplies of goods, only details of outward supplies is given through a return called GSTR1 and the due date is 11th or 13th. Since your 13th is not there, no confusion. For whom it is 11th and for whom it is 13th, we will see it. But here the answer is 11th. Okay. Then the details of outward supplies shall include, yes, the details of invoice issued, the details of credit notes and debit notes, any revised invoice what you have given. So all of the above is the correct answer, which everybody is given the correct answer here. Okay. This we are clear. Fifth question. Yes, all are saying that it is B. Yes. The commissioner can extend the time limit for furnishing the details of outward supplies. The details of outward supplies shall include the details of debit notes, credit notes, and revised invoices, which is already there in the previous question. And the details of outward supplies shall be submitted in form GSTR1 by all registered person except IST, NRTP, person paying tax under composition scheme, person paying taxes under section 51 and 52. For them, they don't have to file GSTR1. Good, very good that you're all aware of it. So it makes easy for us to now concentrate after these MCQs, the discussion on the core points and not in the detailed procedural aspects. Very nice. For the sixth question, there is a confusion. Few people are saying answer as B. Some people are saying answer as C. The details which is submitted by the supplier in GSTR1 and communicated to the registered person in GSTR2A, that is for sure. So whether it is GSTR2A after the data entry or after the due date. After the data entry, they may change it because it is not yet submitted, right? So it will appear in the GSTR2A after the due date itself. That is, after the filing of GSTR1 and after filing of GSTR1 by all the suppliers, it will appear in my GSTR2A. That is, it will not appear before the due date. The GSTR1 due date is 11th and 13th. After that only, it will appear in my GSTR2A. So the correct answer is C. Yes. Yeah. So a person other than a ISD, NRTP, and a person paying taxes under 10, under 51 and 52, they will file a periodic return in form GSTR-3B. These people, ISD, NRTP, for them, they have a special return. That return, we will see what is the special return they will file. Question number 8. Subject 3B, so 3B. Eighth one. Most of you are saying here it is B or C, but the correct answer is D. A composition taxpayer doesn't file a monthly or a quarterly return. He gets a special privilege to file a annual return. So he files GSTR 4 by 30th June succeeding the year directly. Yearly one return is what a composition payer files it. So it is D. State which is a true statement in this. कॉम्पोजिशन डीलर क्यों रिटर्न फाइल करता है? रेगुलर डीलर क्यों फाइल करता है? उसी वजह से कॉम्पोजिशन डीलर भी फाइल करता है, बिकॉज यू आर डूइंग अ सेल्फ असेसमेंट अंडर जीएसटी. तो आप क्या असेस कर रहे हो उसे आपको डिस्क्लोज करने के लिए आपको रिटर्न्स फाइल करना है. वैसे ही कॉम्पोजिशन डीलर कितना पेमेंट करेगा टैक्स, हाउ मच इज सेल, वो डिस्क्लोज करने के लिए उसका रिटर्न्स जरूरी है नवनीत. Both statements are correct. Okay. The last date for payment of taxes to the appropriate government is the last date on which the registered person is required to furnish the return. Correct? So, in GST regime, the date of payment of tax and the date of filing the returns is the same. It's not that you can file the returns and pay the tax later on. That's not possible. Along with the payment of tax, you should pay the returns also. You should pay the taxes and then file the returns. And every person who is required to furnish return under section 39 and 32 shall furnish the return for every tax period, whether or not supplies have been affected. So even though 39, 32, the section is not relevant, the basic point here is that even if you don't have transaction, okay, whether you have supplies or no supplies, you have to file returns under the GST regime. That's called as a no transaction return, is called as a nil return. Okay, so the correct answer is C because both A and B are correct statements. So composition dealer quarterly return फाइल करता है ना? नहीं. Composition dealer quarterly payment करता है, वो quarterly return फाइल नहीं करता है. A is partly right. Why, Nagraj? A is partly right. A is fully right. Late fees interest. Correct. So the due date, Nagraj, is the due date of filing return. If you file late, then you have to pay interest and late fees. 10. 10 is what is the time limit for rectification of GSTR1? Return can be rectified. Okay. The return under the GSTR1, whatever you're filing, can be rectified by when? By the 30th November or the due date of filing annual return, whichever is earlier. So this is the correct thing. The first return. For which period will the first return be filed? Yes. 10, 11, 11, A, B, lot of confusion. The first return shall be filed from the date on which he became liable for registration till that grant of registration. That is called the first return. Okay. Find the correct match of the annual returns to be filed. Which annual return, which registered person will file? Okay. A registered taxable person, will he file GSTR 8? No, he will not file GSTR 8. He will either file GSTR 3B, and for him, the annual return is GSTR 9. Input service distributor, will he file GSTR 9? No, he will not file GSTR 9. So that is also wrong. Non-resident taxable person, will he file 9B? No, he will not file 9B. Compounding taxable person, will he file 9A? Yes. A compounding taxable person will file GSTR 9A. So that's the correct match. Others are wrong. A person who is taken composition registration, he is called as a compounding taxable person. Yeah. Question number 13. 13A. The final return shall be filed by the taxable person within 3 months from the date of cancellation or 3 months from the date of order of cancellation, whichever is later. 14th one. A goods and service tax practitioner can undertake the following activities if authorized by a taxable person. Fourteen B, correct. You can do all of the above. Last question. 15, it is not D. Any failure to file the annual returns within due date attracts a late fees of rupees 100 per day, which is capped up to 0.25%. When you see the annual returns, you see that 100 rupees per day and capped up to 0.25%. Good to see. I joined late, so if you can quote, I will heard it in Y is equal to YT. Okay. So, Mustafa, no problem. We will be discussing the session now. Till now, we have been doing the MCQ so that we know it. Nagraja, question number 12 queries. Yes, question number 12. Yes, it is GSTR 4. Earlier, it was GSTR 9A. What you're saying is right. Now it is GSTR 4. Correct. Sir, if self cancellation of GST is done, then order of cancellation to aayega nahi. And if order of cancellation came earlier, then after cancellation of GST within 3 months, it is mandatory to file annual return. Yes. Order of, if you do self cancellation also, the officer has to approve it. So it is not self cancellation. If you are requesting for cancellation, the officer will approve it. Only then your cancellation will get effective, not by your own. You cannot go for cancel yourself. You can apply for cancellation yourself. Approval to officer से आएगा. जैसे registration के लिए you apply it. Similarly for cancellation, they will approve it. If approved, then within 3 months from the date of approval. Correct. Because officer भी देखेगा ना कि आपका कुछ पुराना ड्यूज है, कुछ रिटर्न्स फाइल करना है. ऐसा नहीं कि पुराना रिटर्न्स पेंडिंग रख के आई गो फॉर कैंसिलेशन ऑटोमेटिकली हो जाएगा. नो, I will apply for cancellation. Officer will check it and then I will get the cancellation order. Good. Very, very nice questions today. So I've understood that most of you know the returns. Sadia, please explain question number 15. So annual returns when we'll do, no, that time you will have a clarity, Sadia. Don't worry. Okay. So basic GSTR 1, 3B, 2A, 2B, you know. So it becomes easier to now only explain the important aspects. सर जैसे GSTR 3B में नॉन फाइलिंग का नोटिस आता है वैसे एनुअल रिटर्न्स का नोटिस नहीं आएगा. नो, क्योंकि फॉर मंथली रिटर्न्स देयर इज अ स्पेसिफिक फॉर्म कॉल्ड GSTR 3A, बट फॉर एनुअल रिटर्न्स देयर इज नो स्पेसिफिक फॉर्म. तो डायरेक्टली नोटिस व्हेन द ऑफिसर पिक्स अप इट विल कम. इट विल नॉट बी लाइक अ ऑटोमेटिक नोटिस. जैसे आपने रिटर्न्स फाइल नहीं किया तो ऑटोमेटिक नोटिस आ जाएगा, बट फॉर एनुअल रिटर्न्स देयर इज नो ऑटोमेटिक. द ऑफिसर हैज टू इनिशिएट. ओके. Now, why do we file the returns? Returns की इसलिए file करते हैं because it gives information to the department. Like somebody was asking, why should a composition taxpayer file the returns? To determine the sales. How much is sales, the officer will not get to know. The department needs to know what is your turnover and how much taxes you're paid. To determine that, you have to give the details in GSTR. GSTR 4, and for monthly return filers, you have to give details in GSTR 3B. So it's a self-assessment wherein I'm doing assessment of myself. Generally, feel that assessment has to be done by the officer. Yes, that is a secondary assessment. First assessment, you only do it. Because आपके sales, how much is your sales, how much is your transaction? There's no officer sitting at the factory gate. He's sitting at his office. They have given independence to you that you do all the transactions. The law has been given to you. You see this and file your returns. That's how we will file the returns through a self-assessment. You will assess yourself what is the value, what is the taxes, and you will file your returns. So your return itself is an assessment. If they have any question, then they can do a adjudication of that assessment. But first assessment, you yourself are doing. Okay. Different types of return. For a regular taxpayer, it is different. NRTP, it is different. For a composition taxpayer, it is different. Returns provides the facts. It gives only the numbers saying that this is what I've done. There's no interpretation in the returns. Okay. There is a specified format. So one type of return for everybody. सर अभी जो क्वेश्चन पूछे उसे डिटेल्ड एनालिसिस करेंगे. श्योर करेंगे. Okay. There is a specified format, that format to be taken care of provisions of law. The provision or the format is given by the law itself. Now, what are the purpose of returns? It generally gives information to the tax administration so that they get proper information. It's a compliance verification. आप compliance कर रहे हो या नहीं कर रहे हो देखने के लिए रिटर्न जरूरी है. It's finalization of tax liabilities. जो भी आपका total liabilities है वो finalization हो जाएगा in the returns. And providing necessary inputs for taking policy decisions, whatever returns you file, lot of information you feel that why it is required. मैंने तो tax pay कर दिया है, but you have to give details of your interstate supply, which state you're supplying to. So the government needs to know all of this statistical information also to decide who is paying the tax correctly, who is not paying, how is the industry going. उसके लिए some additional information required. And it also management of audit and anti-evasion programs. जैसे किसी ने returns file कर दिया, input credit तो ले लिया, लेकिन tax कुछ भी pay नहीं कर रहा है. So the officer will trigger from the basis of the return saying that ये तो सिर्फ input tax ले रहा है, लेकिन output tax pay नहीं कर रहा है. There's something wrong in this. So he can investigate based on this data what you're filing in the returns. So can officer demand investigation in case of doubt in his mind about supplies denoted in GSTR-1? Yes, he can do a scrutiny of returns. There is a provision called as scrutiny of the returns. He can get into the scrutiny of your returns based on the details what you're filing 1 and 3B. Definitely he can get it. Now, what are the returns we file for outward supplies? We will furnish the details of outward supplies in GSTR-1, that is by a regular taxpayer. Then that regular taxpayer will file a GSTR-3B return. Okay, so a regular taxpayer files two returns. One is GSTR-1 and GSTR-3B. Then for a composition taxpayer, he files GSTR-4. A non-resident taxable person files GSTR-5. A final return, a first return is filed. Apart from this monthly returns, there are special returns. The first return, we know that period, right? So that first return will be filed by a newly registered person. Once he files the first return, then all other returns are the regular returns, that is the regular GSTR-3B and GSTR-1. A statement for TCS is filed by a special category of person who has to pay TCS to the government in GSTR 8. Annual return is filed in GSTR 9, 9A or 9B, depends on various taxable persons. A final return is filed in GSTR 10. A UIN holder files the return in GSTR 11. So if you read this nutshell, you know that what are the returns and what are the information you have to provide in it. The important aspect in GST returns is that all the returns under GST has to be filed online electronically on the portal. There's no manual return which has to be filed. Everything has to be filed electronically. What is the importance of timely filing? First, आपका notice, interest or penalty बचेगा, but why should you file the returns on a timely basis? Because the returns is a working sheet for authorities to rely on. So if you give the information earlier, then they know that you are compliant. अगर आप late देते हो, मतलब they know that okay, you're continuously filing rate, so you're not a compliant taxpayer. So it gives all the information correctly. Secondly, if you file the return on time, then the recipient also can get the credit on time. Okay, so that's the reason you file the GSTR-1 late. So uska credit, he will not get it in this month, he will get it in the next month. So that will become a lot of problematic thing. So that's why if you file it on time, you are also happy. Your receiver also is happy because he will also get the credit on time. GST returns, file it on which portal? gst.gov.in. Upload through offline utilities provided through GSTN. Various options, directly fill it. Upload it through offline utility, that is Excel sheet, which is given by the GST portal. Download it, fill it, and upload it. Another option is interact it or engage with the GST service provider. You have a lot of GST service provider like Pally, ClearTax, Many other GST service providers are there through which your data can get integrated. So if you're using any sophisticated software, from that software itself through a GST, your returns can go through the GST return directly. Okay. Then the information furnished in the returns are stored on the common portal, and one return is one return is common for both state and center, right? You have CGST and SGST, so you do not have to file separate returns. You have to just file one return, which will be visible to both state and central officers. Sir, how will the officer review this much data of returns? Like a very less team working in each district can be considered a loop. So that is the department's view. They will do analysis, and even if the officers are less, still the analysis what they do from that they get a report that will be helpful to them. Sir, if amount is mismatch in GSTR-3B, what should happen? Can we do three? Can he do GSTR-3B? If there's any mismatch, he can either pay through a separate challan for the differential liability, or he can pay the difference in a next month's GSTR-3B. Softwares like Tally, yes, they also are GSPs. They can also take your information and share it with the portal directly. Now, outward supplies. First is we saw in that table that the first return is statement of outward supplies. Now, this statement of outward supplies is given in GSTR1. What does this GSTR1 say? That a regular person due date for filing is 10th of the subsequent month. So, what you have to give information that will see that these specific outward supplies, whatever you're making, okay, that you have to give it in your GSTR1. Matlab, you're a taxable person, you're supplying goods, you're supplying services, all the supplies, outward supplies, जो भी आप sale करते हो, barter, exchange, from which is your outward supplies, will all come in this GSTR1 return. When you have to file, the law says section uh, 39, 37 says you have to file by the 10th, and it can be extended by the commissioner. So the commissioner has extended that, okay, I've got the power. So he's extended the date from 10th to 11th for people who are having turnover more than 5 crores. And for people who are having turnover less than 5 crores, they can file quarterly returns. So for the quarterly return filers, it is end of the quarter, say 13 days. So normally it is 11th after the end of the month. Say September के लिए October 11th is for a monthly filer. But for a quarterly filer, it will be for the period of October, November, December. It will be 13th January. Okay. So that's how the due dates are calculated from the end of the quarter or from the end of the month. Okay. So through a notification, it is extended from 10th to 11th for a regular taxpayer and 13th for a QRMP taxpayer. Who all cannot furnish or who should furnish? Every registered person, including a CTP, a casual taxable person, will file the GSTR1 return, except these people: ISD, input service distributor; NRTP, non-resident taxable person; a composition scheme taxable person, he will also not file GSTR1. A person paying TDS, he will also not file the GSTR1. A person that is e-commerce collecting TCS, he is also not required to file GSTR1. And a supplier of OIDAR, Online Information Database Access Retrieval Services, he also need not furnish the return in GSTR1. As we had said, what is the due date for filing GSTR1? Sir, why central GST offices hold transactions of the firms? Because they are GST authorities, they will have transactions of the firms. For a regular taxpayer who's filing returns monthly, it is 10th day of the month succeeding each month. For a QRMP, quarterly return monthly per payer person, for him the due date is 30th of the month succeeding the quarter. This all will not file the GSTR1. Yes, these people, what you have mentioned in the list, Mustafa, they will not file the GSTR1. Okay, so this is monthly filers. Now, when we are saying QRMP scheme, what is this QRMP scheme? 11th or 10th. So the return in the law, it is 10th, but through a notification, it is extended to the 11th. So the actual due date is 11th itself. Okay. What is this QRMP scheme? QRMP scheme says that a person who's having turnover below 5 crores, he has an option to furnish the returns, quarterly returns, monthly payment. The name itself suggests that it is QR, quarterly returns and monthly payment. So they will make the payment on a monthly basis, but they will file the returns on a quarterly basis. But when they make the returns on a quarterly basis, the person who is buying from them, he will have to wait for 3 months to get the credit. Correct? So that will become unfair, right? So what they've said is, we will do one thing, that don't worry, we will do one thing, that we will give you the credit also. Whenever a QRMP person is making a supply, he has to generally file a and GSTR-3B returns on a quarterly basis, and GSTR1 also he can file on a quarterly basis itself. Okay, quarterly returns and monthly payments. But the other person, receivers are saying we are not getting the credit, so you do something. So they got this option of QRMP scheme, and they said, okay, you're not compelled to file monthly returns, but your customer is asking you the credit. So we will introduce a new form called as invoice furnishing facility, wherein you have an option to furnish the invoices. So this is called invoice furnishing facility, or popularly known as IFF. What this QRMP person will do in the first month, he will not file the GSTR1, but the customer is saying, give me the credit. So he will file this return called IFF, wherein if any customer who is registered and he wants to claim the credit, so for him, I will upload the IFF. Once I upload his invoice in IFF, he will see that it is reflected in his GSTR 2A, 2B, 4A, or 6A, and he can claim the credit. Okay. So it's not a compulsory thing for the supplier that he should file IFF. If he wants to give the credit to the recipient, he can file it. And it's not necessary that all the recipient's data should be there. Whichever recipient's data he has, he can file it in the IFF. Balance, he can file it in the quarterly returns. That quarterly returns, he can file it and getting a second option opportunity. So for the first month and second month, he can upload the data in IFF by the 13th of the subsequent month, and that will reflect in the recipient. And in month 3, he will upload in IFF for month 1 or month 2 and upload total invoices except what he's already uploaded, that he need not report again. Once he's uploaded here, he need not upload it here. If he's not mentioned anything, then he can upload in the GSTR1 of the third month. Whatever he uploads, that will get reflected in the recipient in their GSTR2A and 2B. Clear? So IFF either file on a quarterly basis and upload it, or do the quarterly and do the monthly thing and file the quarterly returns also, whichever is beneficial. Clear with this IFF? वे टू फाइल आईएफएफ अगेन ऑनलाइन इटसेल्फ, जहां पे आप जीएसटीआर 1 फाइल करते हैं वहीं पे बगल में आईएफएफ फैसिलिटी है, यू कैन फाइल इट ऑनलाइन इटसेल्फ. How will be the tax payment? Tax payment will be on a regular calculation, whatever supplies you made. On that, you calculate the tax payable, reduce the ITC, and make the tax payment. Every month, yes, IFF can be filed every month. Tax should be paid every month. Yes, QRMP means quarterly return monthly payment. So they have to make the payment monthly. The return has to be filed on a quarterly basis. Sir, any consequences for supplier in case he opted QRMP and failed to upload? No. If he fails to upload IFF, no implication. He can fill up all those things in the GSTR1 on a quarterly return, no consequences. If he files, fine. If he doesn't file, no late filing fees, no penalty, nothing. He has to only make the payment on a monthly basis. IFF is optional. IFF is not compulsory. Clear on IFF? Any more doubts? It will make effect on purchaser, correct. When interest paid due to late payment of GST liability, then the expense allowed in P&L account, you have to see that under income tax provision, Navneet, not in this class. Navneet, I didn't understand your question. Okay. Furnishing details of outward supplies, invoices can be uploaded anytime, but filing, you can do it only at the due date. So invoices can be uploaded anytime during the tax period, not necessary between 1st to 10th. Invoices for the month of August can be uploaded from the 1st to 10th. It's not that only on the 10th you have to go and upload it. You can keep uploading it. Once you submit it, then you cannot keep adding anything to it. Scanned copies of invoice are not required to be uploaded. So when we say uploading of the details of outward supply, you're entering the details. You're not uploading the invoice as such. You don't have to scan it and upload it. Whatever is the information in the invoice, invoice number, invoice date, the recipient's GST number, taxable value, what is the tax, CGST, SGST, or IGST, and total invoice value. This is what you will upload in your GSTR1. Okay. description of each item. They say product name, color, weight is not required. But how do you know what you have supplied? That is given through a HSN code. A common code is there for one product. It could be of different variant, different smell, different size, different color. Doesn't matter. It is all tagged by a common HSN. So you have to give the HSN details of these goods. HSN is for goods and SAC is for services. Harmonized system of nomenclature for goods, and SAC is a service accounting code which is will be used. HSN determines the GST rate. Yes. Values given in the return should match 100. Didn't understand. Financial stream, yes, your monthly books should match with the returns. Now HSN details. The HSN details we have to give. Now HSN is a 8-digit code. Now for every product में 8-digit codes नहीं रख सकता हूँ. That's why government has given some relaxation. They've said if your turnover is up to 5 crores, then for all B2B supplies, you give GST digits up to 4 digits. And for B2C, you give 4 or you don't give. No problem. For B2C, it's optional. But for B2B, you have to give 4 digits. And if your turnover exceeds 6 crores, then you have to give 6-digit code of HSN. Because 8 digits will be getting in detail. So that's why they've said that, ठीक है, uh, so if it is turnover is more than 5 crores, then you have to give 6 digits. And if it is up to 5 crores, then you have to give for B2B 4 digits, and for B2C, it's optional. So what's the checkpoint from department angle to identify fake invoices? So how they will identify fake invoices is that a person who's doing fake invoice, he will not pay the taxes. So he will upload the return in GSTR1, but he'll not pay the taxes in GSTR-3B. Or that is first thing which they will see. Or a person is claiming credit, but the credit is not appearing in his GSTR2B. That is another thing. When a person cannot file GSTR1, when his previous GSTR1 is not filed, or he has not furnished the return in GSTR3B, which means what? You have to furnish all your previous returns, only then you can file your current month's GSTR1 and 3B. A registered person who is opting for QRMP shall not be allowed to furnish the details on GSTR1 if he has not furnished the previous month's GSTR-3B returns. So either a quarterly return payer or a monthly payer, previous period's return has to be furnished. Only then he can furnish current period's returns. A registered person who is for whom an intimation has been given under 88C. What is 88C? That a person's details in GSTR1 is more than GSTR-3B. He is given a notice, but he is not replied to it. Okay. Then also his return will be blocked. Okay. So following are the persons whose returns cannot be filed. A return is not furnished in GSTR-3B for the preceding month. A person who is opting for QRMP scheme has not furnished GSTR-3B for the previous tax period. Or a person to whom intimation has been issued under 88C, unless he deposits the amount or furnishes a reply, he cannot file the GSTR1 or IFF. So Your it's not possible that previous 2, 3 returns I've not filed. I'll file this month's returns and I'll continue it. No. Compulsorily, your old returns, old GSTR1 payment of taxes has to be done. Only then you can file current month's return. Okay. And if you're getting any notice under Rule 88C, you have to either make the deposit or give a reply. Otherwise, your GSTR1 will be blocked. A casual taxable person after the close of business, he will not be required to file. Up to the close of business only he has to file. A person's GSTN has been cancelled. Okay, there also he need not file it because his once he applies for cancellation, he will go under suspended mode. Then he need not file the returns. And if there is no business transaction, still nil returns has to be filed. Person who is opting for cancellation need to file for the active period. That is for the period when he was active. Till then he has to file it. For quarter Jan to March, if IFF is not filed, or Jan, can we file IFF for Feb? Yeah, IFF, no problem. IFF is not a compulsory thing. So if you do not file for Jan, you can file for February, no problem. So if GSTR1 is blocked now, he will be blocked. How will he be unblocked? While filing the previous returns. Once his previous returns are filed, then this month's return will automatically get opened up. And if he's got that notice under 88C, right? If he responds to that, then his GSTR1 will be unblocked. What details we have to mention in GSTR1? The GST number, the trade name, the legal name, the aggregate turnover, what is the tax period for which you're filing, HSN wise details of outward supplies, what are the documents you're issuing, what are the supplies you have made, the supplier's GST number, value of supply, and the taxes. If there is any advance received, what is the taxable supplies which is made to B2B supplies? What is the interstate supplies to unregistered person, wherein the value is more than 2.5 lakhs? Then zero rated supplies, deemed exports, nil rated exempt supplies. So it's not that only taxable supplies we have to mention. Exempt supplies, export supplies on which we are not paying taxes. Even that has to be reported because this is a complete summary of your transactions you're doing in a month. So all the transactions you have to upload, debit note, credit note, any amendments you're making, that also has to be uploaded. Then invoice wise summary. Invoice wise for B2B, we will mention because the other person has to get the credit. But for unregistered supplier, B2B supplies interstate and intrastate, everything you have to supply. But for B2C, if it is interstate, you have to give details only if the value is more than 1 lakh rupees. And consolidate details like they said 10,000, 10,000, both सारे invoice मैंने दिए हैं and recipient is unregistered. So why should I give invoice wise details? Not required. So if it is intrastate supplies, small values, you don't have to give breakup of each invoice, but you have to give consolidated rate wise invoice. If it is B2C and if you're making interstate supplies to unregistered person where the value is less than 1 lakh, there also you can give rate wise and state wise details. More than 1 lakh, then you have to give invoice wise details. Sir, in case is running against department regarding ITC or something, then what's the criteria of filing the return? Any relaxation for him? Any case is going on, that case will be going on separately, but his returns has to be filed. He will not get any relaxation. Applicable TDS, TCS also captured. In GSTR1, not captured. In GSTR1, only your outward supplies will be captured. So B2B, B2C, understand this in another aspect that any interstate and intrastate supply which is made to the registered person, this will be invoice wise. So whatever is this blue color, this is each invoice wise I will give. And B2C supplies, if my interstate, each invoice value is more than 1 lakh rupees, this also invoice wise I will give. But if it is B2C, interstate supply less than 1 lakh, then I will give rate wise details, not invoice wise details. And B2C intrastate supplies made to unregistered persons to again rate wise. For interstate, there is a special criteria. Less than 1 lakh, give consolidated. More than 1 lakh, give invoice wise details. Sir, in case variance between inward and outward supplies due to normal loss, what percentage of normal loss will be accept? Like, what's the acceptable deviation? ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. Whatever is your inward is your inward. Whatever is your outward, you disclose it. That's it. Any amendments? Once you file your returns, any amendments you have to do. You cannot amend this return. You can amend it in the subsequent month's return, saying that मेरा previous invoice number जो है वो गलत था. You can amend it in the subsequent month's returns. What is the time limit for making amendments? By the 30th day of November, following the end of the financial year to which such details pertain, or the date of filing annual return, whichever is earlier. Suppose for 22-23, the due date will be maximum November 30th or 31st November, 31st December, because the due date for annual return is 31st December. So either 30th November or 31st December, whichever is earlier. If you file the return earlier, say मैंने October में file कर दिया, then the corrections you can do only till 30th October. So previous slide you didn't understand. Previous slide was what details you have to give. Should you, if there are 10 invoice, say of 5,000 rupees, so should you give each 5,000 invoice number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 10? Or can you include 5,000 into 10 and give one detail? So when you give all this information individually, invoice wise details, उसे कहते हैं invoice wise entry, which is in blue color. And when you can consolidate all of these invoices, that is called as consolidated details. So अगर मैं किसी बिजनेसमैन या किसी रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन को सप्लाई करता हूं, तब मुझे इनवॉइस वाइज देना चाहिए. अगर वो 1 रुपए का भी इनवॉइस हो तो मुझे 1 रुपए का इनवॉइस अपलोड करना चाहिए. दैट इज कॉल्ड इनवॉइस वाइज डिटेल्स. ओके. नेक्स्ट इज कंसोलिडेट डिटेल्स. जब मैं 4, 5 या 10 इनवॉइस को कंसोलिडेट करके एक साथ अपलोड कर सकता हूं, दैट इज कॉल्ड कंसोलिडेटेड. अगर मैं किसी रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन को सप्लाई कर रहा हूं तो मैं कंसोलिडेटेड नहीं दे सकता हूं, क्योंकि उससे क्रेडिट नहीं मिलेगा. सो उससे मुझे 1 रुपए का इनवॉइस भी इनवॉइस वाइज देना चाहिए. दैट इज व्हेन इट इज कॉल्ड B2B सप्लाई. तो मुझे इनवॉइस वाइज डिटेल्स देना है. और जब मैं B2C सप्लाई करता हूं, अगर मैं इंटर स्टेट में सप्लाई करता हूँ और वैल्यू मोर देन 1 लाख है, तब मुझे ईच इनवॉइस वाइज देना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि 1 लाख से ज्यादा हो गया तो मुझे इनवॉइस वाइज देना पड़ेगा. ओके. लेकिन अगर मैं B2C ही इंटर स्टेट सप्लाई कर रहा हूँ, लेस देन 1 लाख, तो मैं कंसोलिडेट कर सकता हूँ. और मैं B2C विद इन द स्टेट सप्लाई करता हूँ, तभी भी मैं सब इनवॉइस को कंसोलिडेट कर सकता हूँ. यस, पहले 2.5 लाख था, अभी 1 लाख हो चुका है गोल्डी। There will be lots of data which taxpayer can miss, right, sir, if the department don't catch the supplier, supply and recipient's actual goods. No, I didn't understand your question, Goldie Anil. Now, if I make any mistake in the GSTR1, earlier I can only amend it in the subsequent month's return, but there is a new amendment which has come in and a new form has come in called as GSTR1A. So if any corrections you want to make in one, you can make it in the return called GSTR1A. Okay. Now, what is GSTR1A? Firstly, it's an optional. जैसे GSTR1 and 3B are compulsory, वैसे 1A is not compulsory. If you feel there is any correction which you want to make in this month itself, then after filing GSTR1, you can file the GSTR1A. It can be filed only after once a return, only once for a return period. जैसे GSTR1 you file for a month, वैसे ही GSTR1A also you can file it only once. एंड आफ्टर फाइलिंग वन यू कैन फाइल द 1A. ऐसा नहीं कि वन फाइल नहीं किया और मैं 1A फाइल कर सकता हूँ, ऐसा नहीं हो सकता है. यू हैव टू फाइल योर वन, देन यू कैन फाइल योर 1A to amend whatever is the records filled in your current month's one. The corresponding effect of the changes made through one will get reflected in the 3B. जैसे वन में मैंने GSTR वन में मेंशन 1 लाख रुपीस, एक इनवॉइस में मिस्टेक हो गया है, 1A में मुझसे करेक्ट करके 10,000 ऐड कर दिया. So your GSTR 3B will be for 1 lakh plus 10,000. 1 lakh 10,000 rupees will come in your GSTR 3B. But the recipient, will he get the credit? Yes. The ITC for the supplies declared by the supplier through 1A will be available to the recipient in his GSTR 2B, so he can claim the credit. It can be amended only electronically through the common portal or through a facilitation center. There is no due date for filing GSTR 1A, but GSTR 3B के फाइल करने से पहले आप 1A फाइल कर देना चाहिए if you want to give the effect of 1A in your 3B. In case there where change is required in GSTN of the recipient, can you change it? No. Then you cannot change it. अगर within the invoice there is any correction, then you can change it. लेकिन GST number ही गलत हो गया है, so then you have to amend it in your next month's GSTR1. So your question is, will the department catch up and compare the supply's actual value of supply and actual value of further supply by recipient? They don't do that because there'll be multiple data which is involved. During audit, they can get into it, but not at the time of filing return. ओके. GSTR1 मैंने फाइल कर दिया है, GSTR1A मैंने फाइल कर दिया है. अब रिसिपेंट का क्रेडिट आएगा, हाउ इट विल कम इज व्हाट वी विल सी हियर. ठीक है. सो वंस आई मेक द रिटर्न इन GSTR1, that will appear in the recipient in GSTR2A or 2B. ठीक है. It will be 2A or 2B, and then based on this I will file the return in the GSTR 3B. This is the monthly return. This is a simple flowchart to understand. One, I will file, recipient will get the 2B, and then he will file his 3B return. So it's an auto-generated statement. GSTR2A or 2B, it's an auto-generated statement. It'll have the details of inward supplies in which ITC may be available and on which ITC cannot be available. There are two aspects to it: ITC which is available and ITC which cannot be available. Why ITC will not be available? Because there are, like somebody was asking on fake invoices, there are a lot of issues involved in the GST where a lot of fake invoices credit has been claimed. So that's the reason to stop those things. In your GSTR-2B, you will have two tabs. Credit, wherein supplier has supplied the goods to you, you can claim the credit. Second, supplier has supplied, but you cannot claim the credit. That will come in the second tab. Why you cannot claim? He is a new registered person. He has defaulted in payment of tax. His outward supplies in GSTR-1 is more than the GSTR-3B. His ITC, what he's claiming, is more than what is there in 2B. He has defaulted in discharging his tax liability or other cases, what officer identifies. In those specific circumstances, he is a defaulter. Defaulter ka credit, they will not give to you. So if some bills are not uploaded in 2B, then what should they do? They should talk to their supplier saying that I have purchased from you, you have given me the invoice, but you have not uploaded your one. Kindly upload it, otherwise I will not get the credit. So the receiver himself will have to approach the supplier and get this issue sorted. Government will not interfere. Okay? Now, you know your eyes are the spectacles. Your right eye will generally be of the same size of the left eye. Correct? Whenever you're making a specs, the right lens and left lens has to be in harmony. That is what is expected from the GSTR-1. If right is GSTR-1, left is GSTR-3B, one should match with 3B. Correct? Generally, that is the case that whatever outward supplies are mentioned, I have to pay tax on that. But sometimes your right eye is more bigger than the left. Is it practically possible? Practically not possible, but in the returns it is possible that the details in your GSTR-1 is more than the 3B. Because in one, you are declaring whatever is your outward supply. So this is a declared liability, but you're paying less. Possible. In the returns, it becomes possible. So then you will get a notice. This rule 88C is exactly this. It is saying that when there is a difference in liability reported in one than in 3B. That is, you're declaring more supplies, outward supplies, you've made sales, but you're paying taxes less in your 3B. Then the registered person will be intimated on the portal that your one is more than 3B, pay the differential tax. Let's take an example. Total sales for this month is 15 lakh rupees. I've disclosed that in GSTR-1. So my receiver can claim the credit. Now, how much should I pay tax on? I should pay tax on that 15 lakh rupees. So in my 3B also, I should declare that my outward supplies is 15 lakhs. But in my 3B, I've declared 12 lakh rupees. So directly officer will get to know this person is disclosed 15 lakhs in GSTR-1 and 12 lakhs in the GSTR-3B. So on the differential of 3 lakh rupees, they will give a notice and say, pay the differential tax liability on the 3 lakh rupees or explain the difference. You can have genuine reasons also, some saying that, no, my last month, by mistake, I've declared more in one and paid less in 3B. So they will not tell this month there is a difference, so you pay the liability. They will say either pay the liability or explain the difference why your GSTR-1 is more than your 3B. Okay. Unless any one of the above action is taken, he will not be allowed to file GSTR-1. Either you pay the differential or give explanation. Once you do it, then the officer will understand, okay, there is genuine reason. He will allow you to file the returns there. Notice through email and through a portal itself. In GSTR-1A debit note filed, how will it match with 3B? It will still match with 3B. There will not be any difference. This GSTR-1 of next month, yes, if you do not file GSTR-1, if there is a difference more in GSTR-1 than 3B, they will not allow you to file next month's GSTR-1. Correct. Now, what is this GSTR-2A? It is a system generated, uploaded on a real-time basis. It reflects the details of invoices furnished by a NRTP also. All the details, TDS, TCS will appear in your GSTR-2A. What is GSTR-2B? It's auto-generated again. The difference is this is a dynamic. Every time the person files the GSTR-2A, it keeps changing. But GSTR-2B, once the return is filed, it will be fixed. It will not change. When is GSTR-2B available? As I had said, in the IFF, once this is filed and GSTR-1 is filed, whichever is later. So effectively, the due date of GSTR-1 is 11th, and for IFF, it is 13th. So whichever is later, 13th is the later. By 13th, you will see the details in your GSTR-2B. Okay. So effectively, when can we see the GSTR-2B? We can see the GSTR-2B on the 13th of the month. 13th file, everybody will file. So from 14th, you can see your GSTR-2B details. This GSTR-1 of next month, which will not allow, yes. So which to refer for ITC? For ITC, now you have to refer GSTR-2B itself, because GSTR-2A was always dynamic. That's why you will find in the portal both GSTR-2A and 2B is available. But to claim the ITC, you have to refer GSTR-2B. Okay. Now GSTR-1 हो गया, 1A हो गया, और GSTR-2B हो गया. अब नेक्स्ट क्या रिटर्न है? नेक्स्ट रिटर्न है GSTR-3B. Who is eligible to file? Every registered person other than a ISD, NRTP, composition dealer, TDS and TCS. So GSTR-1 फाइल नहीं कर सकता है, वो GSTR-3B भी फाइल नहीं करेगा. So 1 and 3B is consistent, कि जो 1 फाइल करेगा वो ही 3B फाइल करेगा. और QRMP पर्सन विल फाइल इट ऑन अ क्वार्टरली बेसिस, क्योंकि उसका रिटर्न ही क्वार्टरली है. तो वो IFF मंथली फाइल कर सकता है, लेकिन GSTR-1 और 3B क्वार्टरली ही फाइल करेगा. What form? GSTR-3B. It has summary of what? All your outward supplies, inward supplies, which is liable to reverse charge, eligible ITC, and payment of tax. These are the details which will be there in your GSTR-3B. So in case exports made by the supplier, how will system work? Sir, like the recipient will be outsider, correct? So you'll disclose in the export supplies. You will not mention the GST number, because वहां पे तो GST number आएगा ही नहीं. You will not mention it. You'll just mention it as exports. What is the due date? Monthly, it is 20th. For quarterly, it is 22nd or 24th. What is this due date? क्योंकि बहुत सारा लोड हो जाता है सिस्टम में, so they have divided few states. It will be 22nd and few states on the 24th. Okay. Monthly filers के लिए 20th ही है consistently. Quarterly filers के लिए 22nd and 24th. So we have bill. Can we claim ITC without reflection into 2B? No, you cannot claim it. जैसे हमने ITC में conditions देखा था अविनाश, all those conditions has to be satisfied. One of the condition is it should reflect in your GSTR-2B. If it is not reflected in your GSTR-2B, then you cannot claim the credit. QRMP, we know optional return filing for small taxpayer, which is less than 5 crores turnover. They can furnish 3B and 1 on a quarterly basis. For invoices IFF, the IFF limit is also there, saying that up to 50 lakh rupees you can file in the IFF. Below above 50 lakh rupees you cannot file it. Okay, they say you're making a lot of supply, then up to 50 lakhs you can give the credit in IFF. Balance you have to file in your GSTR-1 itself. Opting for QRMP is GST and wise. जैसे composition scheme में if one registered person is opting for composition, everybody has to opt for composition. वैसा QRMP में नहीं है. Each GSTI number you can select for one GSTN quarterly, other GSTN monthly possible. Then registered person must have furnished all the return for the preceding months. Only then he will be able to file it. How to exercise the option? You can exercise the option by the first day. So every quarter you can change. This quarter quarterly, next quarter monthly. That's possible. By the particular days you have to opt it. जैसे April to June quarter है, you can opt from the 1st February till 30th April whether you want to go for monthly or quarterly scheme. Once you opt, no need to exercise option every quarter. Option will lapse when his aggregate turnover crosses 5 crore because QRMP scheme is for small taxpayers. Up to 5 crores आपका turnover है, then you can opt it. आपका cross हो गया, then you will come out of quarterly and file the monthly returns. Sir, can you please explain loops in returns or everything in this could have ice and fire so that we can dive deep and gain some knowledge? Oops, I didn't understand what did you mean? So no option beyond 5 crores. Yes, beyond 5 crores, no option Ashlesh allow. They are big taxpayers, so they have to file monthly returns only. Monthly option only above 5 crores. No option. Compulsory more than 5 crores, monthly ही file करना है. Option you tell to those who have two things. If you have one thing, then you will not tell it's option. It is a compulsory monthly filing itself. Basically, what you will file in your GSTR-3B, GSTN of the business, legal name, what is the tax period, summary details of outward supply. जैसे breakup details है, invoice numbers, वो हमने GSTR-1 में दे दिए. In GSTR-3B, you will give summary details of outward supplies, inward supplies on which reverse charge is payable, then summary details of interstate supplies made to unregistered person, composition taxable person, UIN holders. What is your eligible ITC? What is the ITC available? What is the ITC you will reverse? And the net ITC. जैसे हमने ITC chapter, input tax credit chapter में we had read some credit has to be reversed. Where it will get reversed? In this GSTR-3B. What is your total ITC and how much ITC you will reverse? Net ITC will become your eligible ITC. Ineligible ITC also. Then value of exempt, nil rated and non-GST inward supplies, payment of tax and TDS and TCS credit. This is what you will mention in your GSTR-3B. This mostly will get descriptive, but in a bigger question, you will get that, okay, calculate the tax liability and what is the tax payable and what is the compliance has to be done. Like that, it gets combined with the other questions also. If you do not have any transactions, you still have to file nil return. Revised return is not possible. Whatever corrections you have to do, you can do it in a GSTR-1 correction. That is, we have said 30th November or 31st December, whichever is earlier. Okay. So we'll take a break of 10 minutes. We understood 1, 2A, 1A, 2B, and GSTR-3B. Next, we'll discuss on other returns. Regular returns is fine. Now we'll discuss on the special returns. Special return starts for a returns for a composition taxpayer, which is given in GSTR 4. Now, what all this annual return be? Like how Mr. Somebody was pointed out that the GSTR 9A is not there. Yes. So you have only one annual return, which is to be filed in GSTR 4, which will be filed by the 30th of June. It should be filed by a composition taxpayer registered under Section 10. Okay. So how we have monthly returns, quarterly filers. For them, they have quarterly payment and yearly filing. They don't have to pay quarterly also. They have to only pay quarterly. They don't have to pay monthly. Only quarterly payment is sufficient. So they have to make the payment through a quarterly statement called as CMP-08. So they will make the payment through CMP-08 by when? That also 18th. Regular taxpayers ka date and this should not clash. That's why once the month ends or quarter ends, at the end of the quarter, so April, May, June is one quarter. By the 18th of July, they have to make the payment, quarterly payment. What? Very simple. Whatever is the outward supplies on that 1%. Correct? So composition taxpayers, they want to make it simple. That's why they've given this option because they'll be very small, right? Less than 1.5 crores turnover. If they cross the 1.5 crores turnover, they're out of the composition scheme. Correct? 5 crores is for QRMP. Here the limit is 1.5 crores. And for service providers, even less, 50 lakh rupees. So they want to make it simple. File a annual return in GSTR 4 of your total sales. Quarterly, you make the payment by the 18th of the month succeeding the quarter. Inward supplies are auto-populated, saying that from whom you have purchased, but they cannot claim the credit. It's just an information which is there in GSTR 4A. Basic and other details will be that GSTN of the business, legal name, tax period, TDS any receive, because they can make supply to a government and they can deduct the TDS. So that credit they will get. What is the tax, interest, late fees payable and paid, or any refund which is claimed, those details will be there. Details regarding inward supplies and outward supplies will appear, but outward supplies only is important. Inward supplies, they cannot claim the credit. Even if they don't have transactions, still they have to file this nil returns. Okay. Now, a taxable person is moving from regular to composition. Can he do that? Yes, he can do it. From a regular taxpayer, he can move to a composition taxpayer. So when he moves from a regular taxpayer to a composition taxpayer, he has to file a statement or all the returns relating to previous period, right? जैसे 10 महीने का रिटर्न्स पेंडिंग है, अब मैं कॉम्पोजिशन में जंप हो जाऊंगा तो मुझे पुराना रिटर्न्स फाइल नहीं करना पड़ेगा, ऐसा नहीं है. He will have to file the old returns also. So once he opts for composition scheme, then he will have to file all the previous returns. Till when? Till the due date of furnishing of the return for the month of September of the succeeding financial year. So he will have a time, not that immediately he has to file and then jump in. He will have a time to file all the previous returns or statements by the September. Generally, we have seen November, but this may September hai. Here, there's no change. That he has to file all the due returns by the September or the date of filing annual return, whichever is earlier. Okay. By the September or the due date of filing annual return, whichever is earlier. Now he's come to the composition scheme. Once he comes to the composition scheme, there can be another thing that from composition he wants to come back to regular scheme, or a person who's registered under composition itself, he wants to come to the regular scheme, right? He wants to exit from the composition scheme. Then what happens? He will have to file GST CMP-08, that is that quarterly payment for the period prior to exit. Just in between he exists. And for the previous quarter, he's made the payment. So this quarter, starting from the quarter till the time of exit, he will have to make the payment by the 18th day of the month succeeding that quarter in which the date of withdrawal falls. So he will still get time till the 18th of subsequent month. And GSTR 4, he will have to file for the period up till the 30th June. So in nutshell, what we are saying, even if you move from regular to composition or get exited from composition to regular, जो भी आपके पुराने due date से, that will apply. आपके पुराने ड्यू डेट्स फॉर द प्रीवियस पीरियड will apply. You have to comply with it. Even if you have changed your constitution from regular to composition or composition to regular, your previous जो भी returns है under the old scheme, that you have to file it. Okay. Cancellation, is it possible? Yes. A person paying tax under composition who is not furnished the GSTR1 for for a financial year, that is due date is June, and he's not filed even after 3 months of June, July, August, September. Till September, if he's not filed his annual returns, then his registration can be cancelled. So very careful in monthly returns, and here also we are seeing returns are being very seriously reviewed, that I don't have any sales. I have to only file nil returns. But even if you don't file that nil returns also, your returns your registration can get cancelled. So you have to be very careful in filing the returns. Whatever is due, you have to file it. Do not miss it. Now for a non-resident taxable person. Yeah, any question here? Okay. GSTR 5. GSTR 5 return is for a non-resident taxable person. That a person who is coming from outside India and doing business here, he's a non-resident taxable person. Now, for him, what will be the scheme that he has to file a return? They do not file GSTR 3B, but they will file GSTR 5, which is a simplified return to be filed on a monthly basis. Date of filing will be 13 days from the end of the calendar month or 7 days from the last date of validity period, whichever is relevant. So what is the validity period of a NRTP? What they get the registration. Now, what will be the duration of the registration? We have discussed this. 90 plus 90 days. Correct. Correct, Navneet. Correct, Navneet. Correct, Shamli Sharma. Yes. Others, be careful. be aware that yes, a casual taxable person and a non-resident taxable person, their registration will be given for a period of 90 days and it can get extended by further 90 days. So maximum 180 days. So if they've got registration now for a period of 90 days, so monthly returns they have to file for the, say, first 2 months. And third month, if it is complete, then they have to file for that by the 13th day. Or if the third month falls at the end of the month, then 7 days from the date of last day of the validity period or 13, whichever is earlier. So it will be 7 days itself. So 13th will be for the first 2 months and for the last month. Say if they've got registration for 3 months, first 2 months by the 13th of the end of the calendar month, and 7 days will apply for the last month wherein their validity period is expired. Within 7 days of their validity period, they have to file it. The earlier they file, it is better for them also because whatever is the sales they've made a deposit also, right? So that deposit, they have to get the refund back. So they file the returns earlier. They will get the refund earlier, then they can go off from their state because they have come for a temporary purpose. They have to finish their purpose, do the business, and another task is claim back the refund also. Okay. Now this return will contain only details of outward and input details. Can an NRTP claim the credit? A non-resident taxable person coming to India, can he claim the credit? He can claim credit of only the goods what he's bought from outside India. Within India, he cannot claim the credit. And he is not required to file annual return also, right? Means that IGST on BCD is applicable as ITC. BCD, basic customs duty. No, on import, he'll pay basic customs duty and IGST. So on basic customs duty, he will not get the credit. IGST on importing, whatever he is paying, Mr. Sayed, that he will claim the credit. Casual taxable person, yes. Casual taxable person will file the GSTR 1 and 3B. For him, special return is not there. Then return for TDS. People who will have to deduct TDS, basically a government. When you're supplying to a government, where the value of your supplies is more than 2,50,000 rupees, then the government will have to deduct TDS at 1%. GSTR 7, yes, GSTR 7 return for TDS is GSTR 7 and GSTR 8 for TCS, correct. TDS GSTR 7 and TCS is GSTR 8. No, they are deducting TDS. Government, when you supply to government, they will deduct TDS and they will file this return in GSTR 7, right? जिससे हमें income tax में TDS returns file करते हैं. Something like that, that is there under GST law also, that they will file GSTR 7. Once they file the GSTR 7, the recipient, जिसका payment आना है, in his system, he will find the credit. And that credit will appear in his electronic cash ledger. Unlike other things, credit which we get in credit ledger, but this is actual cash deduction. So you will get the credit in your electronic cash ledger. Okay. And a TDS certificate is required to be issued by the deductor. Once he files the GSTR 1, it gets processed. They will give a return or a statement or a certificate in GSTR 7A. Okay. Will the TDS appear in GSTR 2A or 2B? It will not, because it will appear in your electronic cash ledger. In GSTR 2A and 2B, you see only the credits coming in. It's not a credit, it's a appearance in cash ledger. So it will not appear in your GSTR 2A or 2B. GSTR 7A is a TDS certificate, correct. Return for TCS is given in GSTR 8. जैसे TDS is deducted by the government. You supply to government, government will deduct TDS. When you make a supply through e-commerce, Amazon, Flipkart के through आप supply करते हो, then Amazon will get the money from your customer and they will remit to you. When they remit to you, they will deduct some portion called as TCS. So e-commerce operator liable to collect tax at source will furnish a monthly statement in GSTR 8. So whatever tax they're collecting, that credit you have to get. So that they will deduct it to GSTR 8. The due date is 10th of the succeeding month, जैसे TDS की तरह, and that credit also will appear in your electronic cash ledger. So when can say it's up to 15th of the succeeding month? We can say it's up to 15th of the succeeding month. It is 10th only now, Baba. TCS is 15th, TDS is 10th, and TCS also is 10th. How can we say it is 15th? That's it. 10th is collection and deposited. That time itself, they will do the filing also, sir. So 10th itself is the date. Yeah, certificate they can issue, but filing, so they have to do it on time. Filing they have to do by the 10th, and 5 days after that, they have to give the certificate. That's fine. But if they file the return by the 10th only, then they can give by 15th. So the due date is 10th only. Then the due date for payment of tax. What is the due date? The due date is same like the return date itself. GSTR 3B, GSTR 5 and 7, whatever is date, that itself is the due date. But in case of QRMP, it is different. QRMP has two options. That is, they have a pay tax in each of the first 2 months of the quarter to be deposited in, yeah. So will the TCS appear in 2A to B? No. जैसे TDS doesn't appear. Similarly, TCS also will not appear. What is the full form of TDS and TCS? Kushbu, simple. TDS is tax deducted at source and TCS is tax collected at source. So when you have to get amount from somebody, they will deduct the tax that is called as tax deducted at source. And if they have to collect, because मेरा पैसा मुझे ही आना है, they will collect from it. That's why it's called tax collected at source. Yes, means pay tax and file returns on the same due date. Correct. The due date of return and due date of payment is same. Okay. Now we know quarterly return, monthly payment. Quarterly return file करना है, लेकिन payment तो monthly ही करना है. So how will they make the payment? That is what is explained here. The tax due in each of the first 2 months of the quarter shall be paid by depositing it in pre-filed form called GST PMT06, and payment to be made by the 25th of the succeeding month. For QRMP, the dates, they get lot of dates. Like other dates, other people, they get very early dates. They get 25 days, QRMP people. क्वार्टरली जो भी पेमेंट करना है, क्वार्टरली मंथली जो पेमेंट करना है, मंथली आपने सेल कर दिया अप्रैल मंथ के लिए, पेमेंट आपको 25 मई के लिए करना है, वॉट एवर सेल्स यू मेड इन अप्रैल. ओके. नाउ दिस पेमेंट कैन बी ऑफ टू टाइप्स. वन इज फिक्स सम मेथड और सेल्फ असेसमेंट मेथड. व्हाट इज फिक्स सम मेथड? कि पे टैक्स ड्यू इन ईच ऑफ द फर्स्ट 2 months ऑफ द क्वार्टर, हाउ मच? 35% ऑफ द टैक्स पेड इन कैश इन द प्रीवियस क्वार्टर. जो भी आपका प्रीवियस क्वार्टर था उसका 35%. सिंपल. You don't have to calculate what is your sales for this quarter because they want to make it simple. तो previous जो quarter है उसका 35%. Okay, and deposit it in PMT06 by the 25th of the month. मतलब चालान जो है वो पे करके आप इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कैश लीजिए में जमा कर दीजिए. However, no such amount will be required to deposit for the first month of the quarter where the balance in electronic cash ledger and credit ledger is adequate. अगर आपके cash ledger में इतना sufficient balance है, then you don't have to make the payment also. And for the second month of the quarter, where the balance in electronic credit ledger is adequate for the first and second month, then also you don't have to. मतलब इतना सारा credit और cash पड़ा है, then you don't have to. If there is no sufficient amount, then you will have to make the payment. So this will be calculated automatically. This is fixed sum. Second is self-assessment, wherein you will calculate what is your outward, what is your input, claim the credit, and जो भी है that you will manually pay. That is called as self-assessment method. In this case, do we have to remember the state's name? No, you don't have to. That is not expected from you. The 22nd or 24th क्या date है, you don't have to learn. Now we come to other returns. What's to be filed? So we cannot make payment of GST directly through 3B for QRMP. Uh, if you make it through 3B, then 3B is quarterly. So if you pay quarterly, then monthly, how will you pay? So you cannot pay it monthly in GSTR 3B. You have to pay it in a monthly thing itself. Numeric example will become very late. Okay, we can do with numbers so that we can understand. Sure. Okay. QRMP taxpayer. He is registered under QRMP. So quarterly. Which quarter shall we take? We will take July to September 2025. Month one is July. In July, he made sales of 1 lakh rupees. Okay. Tax rate is at 18%. So what will be the tax on 1 lakh? 18,000. Okay. Now for month one, he's made sale of 1 lakh and GST rate is 18,000 rupees. Now he has an option of making this tax payment. He has to pay because it is monthly payment. Correct? He has to pay it monthly itself. Now 18,000 he has to pay. He has two options to pay it. Okay. I will tell you the two options. First is option one will be you will tell I'm going under fixed payment method. Irrespective of my sales in this month, I will go with fixed payment method. For the fixed payment method, the system will calculate previously what was his turnover. What was the previous quarter? April to June. Okay. In April to June, say his turnover was 5 lakh rupees. 5 lakh ke upar 18% will be how much? 90,000. Right? 90,000 was his tax for the previous quarter completely. In option one, he will pay 35% of the 90,000. How much is 35% of the 90,000? 31,500. So in month one, he will pay this amount. What you are saying, 31,500. Okay. So month one, he'll pay like this. Even in month two, he will pay 35%, which is 31,500. Maybe his actual sale in month two is say 5 lakh rupees. पूरा 5 lakh एक month में हो गया. On 5 lakh again, GST is 90,000 rupees. Doesn't matter. Under fixed payment method, he will pay 31,500 itself. And in month 3, September, his sale is 1 lakh rupees. On that, tax payable is 18,000. So in month 3, what will happen? He has to pay the full amount, which is 18,000 plus 90,000 plus 18,000 minus whatever he's paid, 60 to 63,000. Of course, minus ITC. I have not considered the ITC for simplicity. Whatever is ITC, in the last month, he can claim the complete ITC. First 2 months, he cannot claim because it is fixed sum. क्योंकि पुराना जो है ऑन द 5 लाख, इट्स नॉट 90,000, 5 लाख के ऊपर उसने आईटीसी क्लेम कर दिया है. सपोज ही क्लेम द आईटीसी ऑफ 20,000, तो 70,000 का 30 लेना पड़ेगा नेट लाइबिलिटी का. So let's recalculate that. I'm sorry, not on gross liability, on the net liability का 35% he has to pay. So this will be how much? 70,000, say 5 lakhs, which is 90,000 minus 20,000 ITC. This is equal to 70,000. 24,500. Yes. So he'll pay 24,500 and 24,500, which makes it as 49,000. So we'll reduce 49,000, what is paid, minus the ITC for this month. Say ITC for this month is 15,000. So for in third month, how much will you pay then? Yes, final settlement will happen quarterly at the quarter end, but we have to pay respective each month. What about 21,000 balance? Yes, this calculation comes to 62,000. So in third month, he'll pay 62,000. That is how it works under option 1. Option 2 will be actual calculation. That is same like this. Month 1, he will take 1 lakh, reduce ITC. Say ITC is 5,000. Then he will pay on actual calculation. So here he has to get into the calculation, 13,000. In month 2, it is ITC of another 5,000. So he will pay 85,000. And here again ITC of 5,000. Then he will pay 13,000 here. Clear? This is how the QRMP will work. Balance he can pay in the next quarter beginning, and then we have to pay the latest due, right? No, he will have to pay September ka, when is the due date of return for him, 22nd or 24th, the time he has to pay. ITC 15 कैसे आया? Input tax credit. उसके electronic credit ledger में जो आता है ना, that will be the ITC. Whatever is appearing in 2B, he will see and decide what is ITC. 70 minus 49. This is option 1, Baba. Now we are talking about option 2. वहाँ पे 20,000 था ITC. Here, yes. Here also you say 70 minus 90 minus 20, 70 only. No? Clear now? So that is how QRMP system will work. IFF QRMP के लिए होता है, yes, IFM QR, जैसे मैंने ये सप्लाई किया है, I want to give credit for them, so I will report it in a IFF. IFF is not mandatory. Yes, it is not mandatory, it is optional. Fourth quarter will not come because that will become next quarter. Whenever fourth quarter comes, you'll go back to the third quarter. Okay. Through GSTR 3B, yes, third quarter, third month of the quarter will be through GSTR 3B itself. Yes, if you read one chapter, Mr. Prasad, and want to solve questions, you can solve it. Yes. No, you can continue solving it. You will get the tactics to how to solve it. Calculation is same. Yes, this calculation will be same. For the fourth quarter also, it will be same. Okay. Now we get back to what are the other returns. Quickly, final returns. I am liable for registration. I applied for registration. My first return, actual receipt of registration was on June 15th. So I'll file the first return by the June 20th. For which period? For the period from May 1st to actual receipt of registration. For this period, what I will do, I will issue a revised invoice because under invoice chapter, we learned that whatever supplies I make and I get my registration late for that period, I have to get a revised return. So I will do a revised return. Can we go through the final material to be perfect? It will become too much. So don't go to final. You will get confused. Better stick on to your inter material itself. Yes, you can solve, Mr. Prasad. Okay. So you will issue a revised invoice and you will file the first return for the period from May 1st, 2020 till the June May 1st to June 15th, you will consider as the first return. Okay, because June's return, you have got the registration on 15th, right? So you have applied within 30 days. So from May 1st till the 15th June, you will file your first return. Annual return. Now, once you file the monthly returns, you have option to file annual returns. Not option. Basically, if your turnover crosses certain limit, you have to file it. Um, Generally, the notifications are issued saying that, okay, if you're below 2 crores, you do not have to file it. Above 2 crores, you have to compulsorily file it. So there were exemptions to small person through a notification, but in the act, it says that everybody has to file it. So who has to file? Every registered person except CTP, NRTP, ISD, OIDR, TCS, and TDS person. They have to file the annual return by the 31st of the December of the next month, next year. So 24-25, what is the due date for filing annual return? 31st December. Correct. So for 24-25, 2024-25, the due date is 31st December 2025. Correct. What you will file? You will file GSTR 9, and for a composition scheme person, 9A. But as I said, this is not there. They have to file only GSTR 4. Okay. And if the aggregate turnover is more than 5 crores, they have to file a reconciliation statement also in GSTR 9C. Okay. That is on the annual return. Final return is a registered person who is registered and his registration is cancelled. After he gets a cancellation certificate, he has to file the final return within 3 months from the date of cancellation or date of order of cancellation, whichever is later. Okay. If he's got a cancellation from previous date, then you will not consider that. You will consider the date of cancellation. And if he's getting cancellation from today's date, you will consider. So whichever is later from then, 3 months from then, you will have to file the final return. In final return, what you'll have, whatever supplies you've made after your cancellation, any liabilities are there, that will be indicated in your final return. This final return is filed in a form called GSTR 10. If not filed, whenever you have to file later on, you will have to pay along with late filing fees. If you don't file, then officer can come and recover saying that no, you have not filed your final return. You are liable to pay the late filing fees. Or they can come and attach your bank account saying that this is a compliance which you have not done. They can do that. When date of order of cancellation situation create, every cancellation will come through a cancellation certificate. That is the date of the cancellation certificate. What is late fees? Correct. So when you file your returns late, you have to file a late fees that is called as a late fees. Yeah, this is fine. Okay, this is all fine. General thing. When I share the presentation, this can be seen. The important aspects I'll tell you because somebody is asked exactly at the right time on what is the late filing fees. So you have to file your returns on time. If you do not file the returns on time, then you have to pay a late filing fees that is 100 rupees per day or 5,000 rupees. For annual returns, it is 100 rupees per day or 0.25%, whichever is less. But all of this late filing fees can be relaxed. So they have given a notification and relax the fees. So when you file your returns GSTR 1 or 3B late, you have to pay 500 rupees or 20 rupees per day, whichever is earlier. For whom? For each taxpayer, different. Where they have nil return, then 500 rupees or 20 rupees, whichever is per day, whichever is lower. And if your turnover less than 1.5 crores, then 2000 rupees or 50 rupees per day, whichever is lower. And above 1.5 crores up to 5 crores, 5,000 rupees or 50 rupees, whichever is lower. And above 5 crores, then 10,000 rupees or 50 rupees, whichever is lower. So maximum will be 10,000 rupees penalty. This is for GSTR 1 and 3B. And when you're filing for a GSTR 4%, it will be 500 rupees or 20 rupees per day, whichever is lower. And any other registered person other than GSTR 1, other than GSTR 4, then it will be 2000 rupees or 50 rupees per day. So these are the late filing fees which is payable. And for annual filing, it is 50 rupees or 0.04% per day or 100 rupees or 0.04%, whichever is lower. Penalties, you will have to kind of have some calculation in your mind, seeing that, okay, it is generally you will not get a question because it's very complicated, but At least the annual returns you can remember 50 rupees or 0.04%, whichever is less for small. For more person, for a bigger person, 100 rupees per day or 0.04%. And for more bigger person, more than 20 crores, 200 rupees or 0.5%, whichever is lower. Fine. Then there is GST practitioner. That is a person who can become a GST practitioner. He will be after a person of an Indian citizen. He should be of sound mind, not convicted or retired person, retired state officer, or any degree holder, CA, CS. We can become a GST practitioner. The advantage is the GST returns we can file on behalf of the client from our login instead of he logging. So that's the concept of GST practitioner. Clear? Good, Navneet. Anybody else having any other doubts? What activities he can do? He can file the returns, he can apply for refund application, any notice there, he can respond. These activities, GST practitioners can do it. Furnish details of outward supplies, furnish monthly returns, make deposit for credit into electronic cash ledger, furnish information for e-way bill. These are all the tasks which a GST practitioner can do, Ashlisha. Yeah, it's not a big practice area, but yeah, some practice area could be. This chapter, I think you have to not spend much time. Quickly, you have to spend time on this and reading and have two readings. Quickly, you will get through this. ICSI means how we have Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, like that we have Institute of Company Secretaries of India. That is called ICSI. Final returns, yes, for final return also, there is a late filing fees, yes. Okay. In book, it is clearly mentioned, Tanu Vishwakarma has confirmed that in the book, it is clearly mentioned that you do not have to remember penalties. Thank you so much, Tanu. It's a great relief for me and for the students that penalties are just given for reference purpose. You do not have to remember it. Very good. Thank you so much. GST practice kind of agent, not an agent. He's a consultant who's getting authorization to file the returns on behalf of the client. So he's not an agent. He's a person who is authorized to do the work on behalf of the client, like a consultant. He's not an agent, he's like a consultant. Okay, thank you very much. Uh, we'll see you in the next revisionary classes. Thank you, Sadhya. Thank you, Shraddha. Thank you, Ashlesha. Thank you all.